Hello. I'm very glad to see you here. Very, very glad. Very glad. As is my friend Sonia. I think I could speak for her. She's right over here.
Where is she?
She's right here. Sonia.
Sonia.
Yeah. Anyway, I have a lot of questions, but during the meditation, I got that. My main question was, who is Ramana? Who was Ramana? It's like the essence of him is. I feel him here, and I just feel like hearing about him for a little bit.
Good, thank you. I would say that who Ramana is the living transmission of silence and love and grace. And this silence and love and grace was at one time embodied in that being named Ramana Maharshi, who resided at the foot of the mountain Arunachala. Ramana took Arunachala to be the embodiment of his own master, Shiva, also an embodiment of silence itself, the heart of all beings.
I understand that he was a fairly normal type person until he was about 15, and then he had a realization that he was going to die, and simultaneously realized that there was no death.
Yes.
And that he is not part of any lineage per se.
Correct.
Which, makes him kind of a unique teacher in terms of, what we come to expect in regarding practice and lineage and authentic pathways to enlightened being. And I just...
I love hearing about this. It's really great. Thank you. Yeah.
And it's... I like the fact that this goes back, really 2 generations, in a way. Papaji and Ramana, maybe more. But that there isn't any particular tradition that brought this realization to him, to Ramana. Is that correct?
It is correct, although in his then coming upon different spiritual literature, he found in the literature of Advaita Vedanta all that he experienced prior to this reading was confirmed by.
Yeah.
So it was not so much causative, but a confirmation.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
No. Don't stop.
Well, when I look at his picture, his photograph, I feel a very strong connection. A very, like he's just a radiant, loving, intelligent being.
Yes.
And very ecstatic, just, very happy. Yeah. And I feel like he's my grandfather or something.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Definitely.
Yeah.
It's really amazing going to Ramana Ashram in Tiruvannamalai, where he spent most of his life. His presence is so strongly felt there, and walking upon this mountain, Arunachala, the presence of that is so remarkable, so profound, this resonating silence. In this resonating silence, this transmission of love and grace is so awesomely powerful, so radiantly powerful at the feet of my master. Is that is then recognized as being the heart of one's own being. You see. So you can say that Ramana, that which Ramana is, and that which Punjaji is that which you are in truth. It's three bodies, but the same being. Not three, not two. Really. You know that. But that photograph, it's interesting that there is no face on this earth that is more familiar to me. Really.
Yeah. Why is that?
I don't know.
Yeah.
But there is that sense of familiarity, that sense of, for many people going to India, for example, this feeling of going home or meeting one's guru for the first time, one's master, this feeling of immediate recognition, as if we've been together for God knows how long.
That's right.
Yeah. So it's very beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote to my own master once that little 2-foot cushion that I've been so graced and blessed to sit at his feet is the 2 square feet on this earth that I feel most at home on, right there, just at my master's feet.
There was something that I read in a book that Pietro loaned to me. I guess a devotee went to Ramana and said that if he had one, he said, Bhagawan, if I have one, desire on this earth, it's to do obeisance at your feet. And he said, and he talked about the feet of the guru is the soul and the heart, or something like that, and the head represents the ego. And where the two become one, or become the much greater, the one surrenders to the soul. And I like that explanation because We do prostrations. We do all these things, right? And we have really no clue why. But, sometimes we have a clue. And we think, well, that's good enough. Now I can forget about it and just do it mindlessly. And then, and that's practice. And I'm a good person and I will become enlightened and, and there's an arrogance attached to that and all kinds of things. And I hear people asking about, and myself included, of course, what's the practice here? Well, the practice is becoming much more evident to me as time goes on, and that is the, relentless, disidentification with what is outside of ourselves. And the moving, inside on a ongoing kind of basis. But that's quite a practice. That's nothing to sneeze at here. Yeah.
The problem with speaking of this as a practice, it somehow implies that through this practice, one will attain something that isn't already here and now. So it can be a little bit misleading, this word. I like to speak of it more as a resting.
Right.
Or a returning.
Right. Yeah. And yet you hear people, myself included, talk about it's so hard to stay there. As if, the expectation is that we have got to be there in that resting place all the time.
Yeah.
And that it's not okay to be in, the world and phenomena. That somehow we're, falling away from what is true.
So my master speaks of his teaching as a teaching of non-abidance. Resting nowhere, really.
Okay. Yeah.
In some ways that the true satsang meaning the association with truth, the true satsang in some ways is the beginning of satsang, the quiet time. And all of the talking that goes on is to point back to the silence, you see. And the silence isn't something that's attained through some practice. It's recognized as the very substratum, the very foundation, if you will, the very source. And it isn't added on. It's just that when there's a coming to rest, it's most easily recognized. So in this sitting time, and I don't give any instruction out in the beginning, really it's not abiding one's attention on any object. It's just allowing what appears to appear, allowing this thought stream to flow, no problem. Allowing the sources, the sensations that coming through the senses to come through, no problem. And just to remain at rest in a quiet, vigilant, witnessing, without any concentration whatsoever on any object. Attention isn't landing and holding on to. There is no clinging. There's no abiding. So it's another way of understanding what the Master means when he says he teaches non-abidance. Just a rest of attention coming to rest. This attention that's been going outward, returning to rest back onto the source, which is also awareness, attention. Awareness coming to rest in awareness. So when it's spoken like that, it seems as if there's two. This outward awareness and the source awareness, but there's not two. Likened to a river discharging back into the ocean. Same water. just resting in this. And this is what the devotion is to. And it is this that is the guru within. And it is this that the master is pointing to day in and day out in Lucknow. And it is this that his own master embodied and is even here and now. This silence that has no name and has no form and has no beginning or end, no qualities. Absolutely unchanging.
So this is what is appearing in the silence?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Silence and love are same. Silence and love. Different words for that.
We've talked about how there are thoughts, but no thinker. And then we've talked about how there are actions, but no doer, I think. The first part seems relatively easy to me. It's the second part that throws me. What I want to know is, what relationship is there between thoughts and action? Because there seems to be a strong relationship. Is that an illusion, or?
Well, there's a movement of this mind-body in time and space from a relative point of view. And we speak of this mind as thought and body as action, you can say. But this is in this world of appearance, this ordinary, everyday, relative consciousness in which we experience ourselves often or mostly as being a separate individual entity, appearing as the thinker of thoughts and the doer of activity. So, without inquiry, it appears as if we are this mind body. It appears as if we are the thinker of thoughts, the doer. However, whenever in the course of life one stops for a moment and looks for the thinker, inquires, there's no thinker to be found. Same, looking for this so-called doer. There is no doer to be found. The reason why there's no thinker to be found and there's no doer to be found is because, in truth, there is no thinker and there is no separate individual entity, the doer. Only an appearance that seems very real. So we speak of this samsara as the appearance appearing real. But in satsang, where we're speaking really only truth, as far as truth can be spoken, which it can't. What's pointed to, though, is the truth of one's essential nature, not apparent nature. And this is the heart of Ramana's teachings, this inquiry that brings one back to the heart or truth of that which one is. This inquiry, who am I? or this looking to the source from whence thought arises. These are ways of bringing attention away from this outward flow and back inward to that which is prior to thought. So this returning of attention from this outward meaning on objects, back to source, subject. So if this is actually done, so to speak, the so-called the doing of turning one's attention back within, back to the source, one can recognize that timeless, eternal, unchanging nature as consciousness itself. Beingness, being, I amness, peace itself, bliss itself, love itself. And the recognition that this whole display is coming and going, all sensations, all objects, everything with a beginning and an end. All that is changing, except my own self remains. This source remains unchanging. The substratum remains unchanging. The silence, the stillness, consciousness, all these words pointing to this mysterious suchness of my own self. The tendency of the mind, though, this so-called mind, is to want to objectify who we are in truth. This is the tendency of mind. And that which we are cannot be objectified, it cannot be limited, for it is itself limitless. See, and all that I'm saying is quite evident if one just looks within and sees. Removes all the previous ideas, all the conditioning, worldly and spiritual, all the beliefs removed, and look and see. And it's so simple. It's just so simple. It's so simple to see that there's no thinker of thoughts. Thoughts spontaneously arising, displaying, and disappearing without a thinker. Very easy to see that the one we take ourselves to be so often, the one that thoughts are about, doesn't exist except within thought. Me, I, John. But this true I refers to consciousness itself. Ramana referred to this as I. He used this way of speaking of the true self. He said I as distinct from the I, this small self, the apparent one. But what I'm speaking is most obvious when the mind is quiet. The tendency is to allow the mind to function as obscuration, kind of sometimes spoken of as veils of ignorance or veils of illusion. So it's kind of pulling these veils apart and looking to see what's true, unobscured by thought. So satsang is in great support of this, pulling the veils of ignorance apart. So it's not a question of believing these words. It's really always, I'm always saying this. It's a question of looking and seeing for one's own self. You see, the greatest obscuration seems to be doubt. And one's just merely believing what someone who appears before says. And doubt always follows belief. And doubt is very powerfully undermining. So it's important to recognize what is doubtless, you see. There's no doubt found in silence. Doubt is always found in this so-called mind. One can have a very profound event of awakening. Very profound, and time passes, so to speak. And then these thoughts, did this really happen? Did I really see this? Is this really and then these thoughts and all their different manifestations start to be believed. And then the event of awakening kind of devolves into memory. Disbelief. This is the undermining power of doubt. So it's important to have utter confidence in this view that I'm speaking. A doubtless confidence. So when doubt appears, it is no longer empowered. It can appear because it habitually appears from time to time, but now looked at as like the buzz of a mosquito, rather than this maniacal master, you see. But the habit is to put one's faith, one's belief in mind, in thought. We all know how crazy this mind is, how diabolical the mind can be. For sure, a great ally, but left as the master, quite diabolical, quite mad, quite undermining and brutalizing. Just thinking. So one has to make a firm decision at some point. I'm not going to be a servant of this so-called mind. I will serve the truth instead. And the truth is not found in the mind. It's not found in thinking. And truth is recognized in silence. That's why it's always silence that's pointed to. In all spiritual traditions and all spiritual teachings, the very heart of the matter is silence itself.
This decision you speak of, where does that come from? Because I find myself thinking along those lines.
Thinking along what lines?
The lines of, I don't want to be a slave of this maniacal mind anymore. I'm fed up with this, like that. But that devolves into thinking about the subject. Where would this come from? This kind of a decision to throw off this.
I could tell you that everything arises from and appears in consciousness. And this is true. But let me say in a different way, that you call it grace, if you will. Call it whatever. But more importantly is to have this determination.
Yeah, I get it. Even if the determination is impure in a sense. Like even if
There's no impure determination for freedom. Where's the impurity in that? This is a fire that burns away all impurities, seeming impurities. Impurities being that which seemingly obstructs your own true nature. The habit is the kind of psychological thinking that's referring to that one we take ourselves to be. And all of that thinking, the obsession about this one that's seeking and longing and struggling and hoping and despairing, that one. So I say the first thing is to recognize, doubtlessly, that one doesn't exist in truth. And having doubtlessly recognized for your own self that one doesn't exist, no longer be willing to entertain that one any longer as being who I really am. Saying being finished with that. So this life now can be used in behalf, in service to something far greater. Than this obsession. It's very strong, this tendency to believe in this apparent one as being who I am, and all of the depression and anxiety and fear that accompanies that identification. The desire to be free of that is grace. Really, there's no greater use of this life that I could see than using this life in service to. In service to whatever one's called upon to serve. And really giving one's life over to that service. And this is the greatest joy and possibility. So I know the habit to entertain this needless suffering is very strong for most everybody, for sure. So it takes a great commitment first and foremost to freedom, a great hunger for freedom. And it takes a great vigilance to not fall into this sleepwalking through life, through a suffering life. It's a needless suffering. There is so much suffering on this earth. So much starvation, so much cruelty, wars, all of this. Why add into the pool of this amazing suffering that's found on this Mother Earth? Why not be in service to instead? So you get a glimpse that there is no doer, there is no thinker, and in truth there is no sufferer. And this is verifiable simply by looking within. So look 10,000 times a day, if necessary. What grace to be called once again to look and see, and to see. And each time seeing is less doubt. It's one seeing. So, like that. So whenever I'm asking you, John, when this doer appears, when it feels like I am the doer, and it feels this way, it seems that I am the thinker of thoughts, it seems that I am the one that thoughts are about, to stop and look. Remember then, in this looking, I'm not that one. I'm seen for my own self again and again. I'm the very consciousness itself in which these thoughts are displaying, these feelings are displaying. The story of my personal suffering is found only in thought and nowhere else. And those thoughts are displaying in the very consciousness I am. I can allow these thoughts to arise and display and disappear. I don't have to give over the lifeblood of my attention as if we're listening to this story of this personal self for the first time. We've heard it a million times already. And each time we listen as if for the first. What a habit. What we're looking for is not found in that story. There is very little peace found in that story. There's very little love found in that story. And there's no truth at all found in that story. So why entertain it in the same way every time it appears? Why not just say, okay, passing through, good. You go your way, I'm staying right here. But this takes really determination, because the habit is so strong. It is so strong. To lay down on the bed, stare at the ceiling, and let that story run through again. And feel the breath hardly going into the body, and this kind of ache in the stomach, and this familiar depression and anxiety is not necessary. So. Patricia, you are right. This is you could say, a practice of the cessation of identification with appearance and identification with truth. The truth is, I am pure consciousness itself. This video of the master called Call Off the Search, I think one of the first segments of this video, this fellow Ram is interviewing the master. No, it's this, I'm forgetting his name, Jeff, interviewing the master, and starts off by asking, who are you? And the master answers the only true words that he could possibly speak. He said, I am that. I am that. And that which he's speaking of is that which you are. That which Ramana is, that which the master is. When he's speaking, I am that, that which you are, same. But we're declaring something else all day, every day. How rare to declare the truth that may be possibly spoken in the words, I am that. Good night. So the speaking, I am that, is the speaking, the words of the identification with the eternal, with consciousness itself, with silence itself, with love itself. So I am that. And then he went on to add, from whence all arises from.
You mean the master first said, I am that, and then he added to that, from which, or from whence all arises.
I think he said, from whence he, she, it, like this he was saying.
Yeah, I don't get that. I don't get that use of the word that at all. I'll tell you.
You don't get
I
it?
don't understand the use of the word that in that sense.
No, then you remove this word that. It's totally unnecessary. Yeah. The word that is a pointing word. And what is this pointing word that pointing to? Consciousness itself, silence itself, the source itself. Silence, consciousness, source are also words pointing to that which in truth cannot be spoken, beyond name, without name. The function of the master, in part, is this pointing function. So he uses words to point. Pointing to what? Pointing to that which can't be spoken. Your own self. Sometimes spoken of as who you are, but it's not a who, you see. It's not a who. Or sometimes spoken of as essential nature, the nature of that. The essential nature of that which you are in truth. At some point, there needs also to be a willingness to, I'm so glad you came back. I was actually felt sad. What's your name? Come in. I'm happy that you're back. I couldn't believe that you were leaving. So good. A willingness to forego understanding. I know the words do sound clear. There's a clarity. And there is an understanding in these words. But the understanding can only go so far. Understanding is a fantastic sword, a fantastic ally. Understanding is great grace. And yet what's being pointed to is beyond understanding. It's beyond understanding. So in the recognition that it's beyond understanding, it's a letting go of the striving to understand. At a certain point, understanding, which is such fantastic grace, actually, the striving for more understanding becomes obstructive. This is ultimately a mystery. The mind doesn't enter that which I'm speaking about and from and to. It's prior to mind. Could speak of it as beyond the mind. Speak of it as no mind. Like this. So what's pointed to, this source, this substratum, is this no mind. The mind is thoughts. Thoughts appear in consciousness. This substratum or consciousness or silence already is. It's not something to attain through some great effort over time. It already always is. It's that which you are. It's only a question of pulling aside these veils, and the pulling aside these veils are letting go of identifications as they reveal themselves. That's also so simple. And then finally it's realized there's nothing obscuring. Nothing's been obscured. It only appeared that way at a certain point. Got my letter?
Yes.
Was there anything else?
No, thank you very much.
Okay.
Hi. This sounds like this ongoing vigilance, disassociating. What was that? That your master said disassociating with. What was that? Disidentification.
Yes, ceasing the identification with
right. With the mirage.
With the mirage. Yes.
Okay, so
Nancy,
one
I think
could
it's right, Nancy.
yes, yeah. One could continue to have this discipline to train the mind to invite grace. Like yesterday you said, in recognition, it comes to you.
I'm saying it's not at all a question of training the mind.
I ultimately understand that.
Yes.
I'm talking about how to get where
you are.
Yeah, exactly. Like I wanted you to tell a story of awakening, because in this culture we're like, you gotta feel your feelings.
Okay, I'll tell you.
This grief thing. You gotta get in that grief to get past it. And all this stuff, and then I'm just one big suffering mess.
Okay, I tell you my favorite story of awakening. Okay. My master, who was a great Krishna devotee for many, many years, from a child, actually had Krishna appear before him many times, and he would play with Krishna. He would see Krishna as you're seeing this and I'm seeing this. So he now is meeting his own master, Ramana. He's now in Tiruvannamalai. He's now at Ramana Ashram, and he's meeting Ramana, my master is. So one afternoon, my master's out playing with Krishna. And this play finishes, and it's time he's having darshan with Ramana. Ramana inquires how he's been spending this time. If I'm not getting this story exactly correct, Krishna, you correct me. My master says, I've been playing with Krishna. And Ramana says, very good, is Krishna here now? And my master says, no, he's gone. And Ramana says to my master, Krishna is gone and you remain. He said, the sight is gone and the seer remains. Find out who the seer is. And in this moment, all was given to my master, the recognition of his own self. That remains even when gods and goddesses appear and disappear. That alone remains. And he realized, I am that, the seer. Not the seen, you see, like this. But this story is not useful to hear unless you are willing to look to the seer as well.
I understand that.
Right? And this understanding is useless unless you're willing to look to the seer itself. It always gets to this edge, you see. So the seer is awareness, you see. Awareness and seer are both words that are pointing to that which you are. What is it that could be aware of Krishna than awareness itself? Awareness itself. And you are that awareness. It's as simple could possibly be. My master says this truth is as evident as the nose on your own face, closer than your own breath, he says. That which you are.
I definitely feel changing happening.
Okay.
There's no question about it.
So let me ask you this.
Yes.
In the midst of the seeing of changing happening,
Yeah.
can you recognize that which remains unchanged?
I've had glimpses.
Okay.
Yes. I mean, I've had instance of,
So
yeah.
this is what I'm pointing to.
Yeah. I just wanted to help it along.
No, this is very good. So changes happen, definitely, the personality will go through many changes in the face of this. And quite remarkable revelations will make themselves known. Depth of wisdom will emerge. Something, though, that which you've glimpsed remains always unchanged. And strictly speaking, truthfully speaking, you can say that I have not changed at all, ever, ever. Even as this body is aging, and even as the personality goes through this change and that, even in the midst of 10 billion emotional states coming and going, and an equal number of mental states coming and going, that I've remained untouched, unchanged, and unchanging. This is true. Regardless of how it appears.
Thank you.
Oh, you're most welcome.
Hi. When I was practicing Vipassana, the only way I knew that I was carried away in my thoughts and emotions was because I was anchoring in my breath, because I was watching my breath. And then I would not watch my breath anymore because I was carried away. And I would come back, and mainly when I came back to the breath, I noticed that I had drifted away. But you're suggesting to not even do that, to just come back to awareness. And it's so simple, but how do I say? I need something to anchor back. Mm. Otherwise, I don't notice that I'm even not doing what I think I'm doing. Mm. Do you know?
Mm-hmm. No, it's no problem.
And in connection with that, I'm puzzled about the stone that you're holding in your hand. Thinking, I don't know. I wonder what it is about.
This?
Yeah. I don't know. In connection with anchoring. My connection to anchoring. It's not important, but I'm curious.
It's a stone from Arunachala that I like to hold.
That's it.
So that's what it is. It's a half a heart.
Where's the other half?
The other half is here.
Different perspective.
Yeah. You know, the Ramana used to give people different preliminary kinds of practices, mantras, sometimes even breath, but I don't know about these things at all. So I really don't.
Your teacher
I
was.
watched an amazing thing my teacher once did. Someone once came to him and said, I have had this mantra for 20 years, all day long. I don't want it anymore. I'm finished with it, but still all day long. And somehow, because he's quite the magician, he took it right away and it was gone. like that, like that. He's a master at removing any and all obscurations. So one can rest in the doubtless recognition of their own self as pure consciousness.
I guess when it's so simple, I'm not sure it exists.
You know, I have a close friend in San Francisco named Alice. And Alice has a son named Eric. Eric is 19. He's just left for Japan. And he has a friend who's in India now studying Hindi. And he's going to meet this friend. And Eric at some point is going to meet me in Lucknow in late October. So I have this video. What video? Well, it was Call Off the Search video. Eric hadn't seen it. It was a few weeks ago. He studied years martial arts, Eric, but not anything of that which we're speaking here. And he watched this video for about 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And he turns to me and says, "This is all so simple. People probably can't get this." And I went, "Oh, fantastic. That's right. That's right. Can't. Yes, so simple." Well, look at this conditioning that's come in this whole spiritual life. These ideas that there is this something to attain, which suggests that it's not here now, and this attainment will occur through some great arduous practice over time in some future. It's believed this way. We really believe this. And we meet teachers who have these teachings of this practice over time in the hopes of attaining this something in some future. No one is saying that you're already that. What kind of practice can there be to attain something you already are? Recognize it now. Realize it now. Look now. My master says, if you practice to achieve something in some future in the hopes of realizing freedom, this recognition 30 years hence will happen in this moment here and now, called 30 years. And this here and now, and this here and now 30 years hence is the same eternal moment. So why postpone 30 years? He says, no effort is necessary. No effort, no effort. And so someone asks the master, you yourself have done intensive sadhana for 40 years. And you're saying no effort. I've told you this. And you yourself are saying no effort is necessary. And the master replies, yes, it took me 40 years to realize no effort was necessary. Yeah, that's right. No wonder there's this immense outpouring of gratitude to someone who is willing to speak the truth of freedom here and now. Really. No wonder that one can spend one's whole life in gratitude to that. So my master also says these teachings are not for everybody. They're not even for those who want freedom today, let alone this lifetime. He says these teachings are for people who hunger for freedom now. Now. On behalf of this now, he is ruthless and uncompromising. 10 after 9. That's why I say, look now, see now. Is there anyone bound who can then be set free? In the same way that you find that there's no thinker and there's no doer, you find no one bound. The bound one is only the imagination, only in thought, only in the story. And it's only the identification with that story, with that imagined one, that obscures the truth of the truth. Thank you for satsang.